In this video, we're going to take the time to look at 3 of the common core tag library functions that we're going to reference in our pages, including the import statement, a redirect, and output. For this project, what we'll want to go ahead and get is the JSTL_import redirect output.war file from the resources. Go ahead and import that and make sure your build paths are configured correctly and everything is up and running. Once we have this, what we'll see is that we're basically going to start rebuilding the web manager system that we're building for our world database, but we're going to start removing some of the basic functionality we did with scriptlets before and replacing now with core tags, and we'll be continuing that throughout this section. I've added a couple parameters for the simple reason of demonstration. The web link is our web link, and the copyright is a year that doesn't make any sense but is timeless. And therefore, we have a copyright and a web link we can use. Now, obviously, these are pretty straightforward variables. One you could get from a date, one you could just have your link that hopefully won't ever change. This just gives us a chance to model a couple things that we could do. So let's take a look. We have our same login user as before. We have all our models and helpers as before. So all of that will be in place and work exactly the same as what we've already seen. So what we're really concerned with is going to be the index page and the list cities page, and we'll use the login page just by default to get our user logged in. So let's take a look at the index page itself. So what we'll see here is that our World Manager page now, we're using the import tag, which looks the same for header, and it looks the same for navbar. But what I've done is gone ahead and added a couple of parameters to our input tag for the import of our footer page. So here we'll see that our footer now has an import with 2 parameters, one for the copyright year and one for the website link, named differently than what we would pull from the init parameter, just to show that it's easier to see that it's a different parameter that way, or different variable we're using. And they're named and pulled directly using EL, the expression language, from the init parameters for copyright and web link as they match the web XML file. And when we look at the footer page, what we'll see then is our copyright page now changes just a little bit to contain the end copy just like before. But now here's our copyright year parameter. So you can see the name is different, which helps us to see that we're not just pulling this directly from the init params. And the href is pointing to the param.website link, which again is our passed in parameter from our import statement. So you can already see the import statement in play. Login hasn't changed much. We still have that in place. Everything here is pretty much the same, so there's not much to worry about there. But what we'll see is that list cities is going to be quite a bit different now, and we're going to start using this list cities page to clean up our code as we go. Let's take a look at the top again. We're going to import. We're going to leave some of the code in place and just start replacing things as we go. Now here we'll see we're going to use a redirect now instead of requiring the request dispatcher. So what we're doing is we're going to start eliminating scriptlets from our pages by using these tags. And that's one of the main points of using these tags, is so that we can completely eliminate scriptlets and ultimately get to that state where we can turn scripting off. Just makes our web pages a little more robust, a little less reliant on code being directly in the page itself. And so here we have the redirect with the URL tag being login.jsp, destinations list cities. We'll do the same thing here, where we're basically turning off now the request dispatcher and placing in place the C redirect tag. And so that will handle our redirects, which isn't really much. You can see the rest of the page is all the same. We have our import at the bottom with our parameters again. And we're going to leave the output in place for now. We'll see better ways to do that as we continue through the section. But the last thing we're covering this video is we're going to talk about the C output tag. So I wanted to show you right here, we can see 2 different output variables in play. So we can essentially use cout to print any text we want to the screen. So we're inside an H1 tag, so it's important to note this disk goes inside tags and will work just like any other plainly written text. And here we can see one way we could have gotten that user ID was directly from the user ID we set here in code and just using the expression. However, as we start moving away from scripting, of course, this option won't be valid anymore. So what we're going to want to do is see that the cout tag gives us the ability to directly reference the expression language statements right there in the output. So we have welcome back, and then we'll pull directly from session scope, authorized user, which is our web user model.userid, which is one of the bean model gets that we're using. See, all this is starting to come together as we start building a more robust web page. Now we have the output being printed out from an expression, from a model, right there on the page inside a tag. So we're great. There are some various C output tags throughout the rest of some of these pages, and some of them I left the same way. For instance, you could wrap this in cout if you wanted to, but there's really no need to right now, so I just went ahead and left some of that in place. You could go ahead and change some of that if you wanted to do more with the cout and practice some of that using those values anywhere there's direct text outputted to the screen. So let's go ahead and run this, and we'll just see it all come into play now. We'll make sure that our tags are working the way that we expect them to. So we'll have our imports working just like usual. You can see now our dates imported, our web link is imported. When we go ahead and log in to our page, everything works the way that we think it should. Again, we're not validating anything. So now we're logged in. Both of our output variables worked, this one being the cout directly from the session scope with the expression. Here's the cout with a break, and then essentially that's the expression parameter right from the page using a script expression. You can see both of them work just fine. We'll eventually be turning this method off though, so we'll be moving more towards this. Everything now is up and running and working as expected.